God gives me everything I need, so I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Everything I need. God gives me everything I need.
All right, good morning. So this is just a pregame warm-up, Seahawks, at 1 o'clock. Got my colors on. They don't get many of these, so I thought I would just start them out early. So welcome, everyone. My name is Reverend Michael McMorrow. I'm the spiritual director here, believe it or not, at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills, where we welcome all who practice their beliefs in faith and love. And we have a little thing that we like to do here as we get underway called Hugs and Handshakes. So we just take a moment to meet and greet each other, say good morning. Nice, yeah. So supposedly a slot machine was the inspiration, but I don't think that's so, because if you look at the way a drunk walks, not that I would know anything about that. Well, I was in Vegas for the weekend. Something I observed. No judgment. New Year's Eve is coming. All right, so please help me welcome our head of practitioners for one more month?
Something like that.
Yes, Suzanne Jensen. So please help me thank her for being here. Thank you. All right, so let's all take a deep, conscious breath. Exhale. Just allow ourselves to surrender to this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as Suzanne lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. The eighth candle we light for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. The 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space we hold for them here at our center. And as Suzanne lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and I see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only
I am so grateful for this beautiful day and for the peace that is within and expressing through each one of us here today. I'm grateful for all the good that we experience in this service and the essence of the divine which is I can see in each and every person. I know that we are all blessed to experience life in its fullness, in presence and oneness, as all of the diversity of expression right here in this very room. I give thanks for this wonderful service today, and I know that we all receive what we are here to receive in understanding of the one infinite life. And I release my word to the law, knowing in gratitude that it is so, and we say together, and so it is. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Live your perfect life. I saw this title in Science of Mind magazine on one of the daily guides. Live your perfect life. I knew that this is what I wanted to talk on today because for myself, I needed to reconnect to the space of presence and perfect inner peace and knowing within. It was such a beautiful day outside on Thanksgiving Day this year. It felt wonderful to see all this beautiful energy of life sprouting out. It was clean and fresh from the rain. The beauty of nature, everything being washed clean, abundant beauty. The gratitude seemed to sprout out from within nature itself. There was gratitude in that expression. But at the very same time for me, there were some outer circumstances in my life that if I was not watchful, I could allow them to overtake my mind and heart with what felt like doom or negativity. So I had this creative thought to do for today, and that became my catalyst for positive change. So how do I live my perfect life? Well, Science of Mind magazine says, perfection is not about realized expectation. It's ubiquitous. Everything we experience is a perfect reflection of our own consciousness. Everything is within our ability to create, to change, and most of all, to understand. When I confront my challenges by looking for how my life might be enhanced by a circumstance or situation or condition, seeing the good in it, which is seeing the God in it, I experience understanding, clarity. Then my mind is at peace just in that choice. I begin to feel better right away. Many times the supposed problem is resolved quickly. Being in touch with perfection, I am now available to make perfect choices. Everything begins to flow again with that energy change. It's amazing how quickly everything changes. Thank you, God. Science of Mind magazine says this: when we experience life as a series of divine revelations, we can understand the perfection of everything that happens. And if we don't like what we see, we always have the ability to create something different simply by seeing God in the midst of all. I think in my situation, I was fearful of facing some difficult choices. I did not want to take action. I wanted things to magically change on their own. But I began to realize with infinite intelligence as my guide, I am always intuitively guided to the next right step. I'm thankful this holiday season for being guided back to a place of peace and clarity and all the immense good that already is. Here's a quote from Ernest Holmes on treatment. Spiritual treatment means turning to the absolute. When we bring enough absoluteness back with us into ordinary consciousness, when facing relative conditions, we're propelled into constructive, even ingenious action. And I am so grateful to know this and experience this. Namaste.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Please welcome Mr. David Olivas on the saxophone. And we are very lucky to have a great bass player today, Mr. Matt Wilson on the bass. Yes. We are pleased, as always, to have this next musician. All these guys are fantastic, and I love playing with them. I'm lucky to play with them. Please welcome Mr. Jason Goldstein.
singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were always waiting for that moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for the moment to be free. Blackbird flies, blackbird flies into the night, the cold dark night. In the night of the cold dark night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken arms and learn to see. All your life, you were always waiting for the moment to be free. You were always waiting for the moment to be free. You were always waiting for the moment to be free.
That was really sweet, wasn't it? Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, as Suzanne already said, and happy Thanksgiving weekend. So I remember to say this. There are pictures like this one that were up on the Ofrenda, family members, things like that, that if you left behind, there's a box in the Xerox room with pictures like this in it. These are my parents, not yours, mine. Also, there are some lost and found items in there, some water bottles and coffee mugs. So if you left something behind and you're looking for it, check the Xerox room. So there's some wonderful things coming up here. Today, in fact, is the bereavement support group. So if you are experiencing the loss of a loved one, please come and check that out at 1 o'clock today. It's also our board meeting today, and if you're inclined to want to come visit, you're most welcome. We pride ourselves on being transparent with our financials and everything, so if you're curious about that, come to the board meeting. Later on this week, there's visioning with Reverend Mike on Wednesday, November 28th at 6 o'clock, followed by the Get Real and Heal meditation service on the 28th, also at 7 o'clock. Now, Sunday, a week from today, is the Granada Hills Parade. Holiday parade, right? It's a fun time, y'all. If you haven't been, we're going to have a potluck after service, so bring a dish to share. And then at 1:30, I believe, the parade starts. We set up chairs outside, and it's fun to watch the bands and everything. It's a fun time.
Will we decorate the Christmas tree?
Yes, we will also be decorating the halls, deck the halls with boughs of holly. So come participate in that. It's a fun time. And then on Wednesday, December 12th at 7 p.m. Is Rosalie here? No, but we have the Spiral of Light ceremony, which is we transform the sanctuary into a labyrinth of light. That's Rosalie and her husband and Chloe all participate in that. It's wonderful. If you've never been to that, come participate in that. It's really a wonderful evening. And that's going to be December 12th at 7 p.m. Everybody gets to light a candle and place it in the labyrinth. It's very sacred and quiet and wonderful. And then on Saturday, December 15th at 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, we do the gift wrapping services for the North Valley Caring Services. Is that what it's called? North Valley Caring Services Center. They are a wonderful organization that do a lot. They do a lot of things in the community. So we go every year at this time to help them wrap presents. Children shop for their parents, and we wrap the gifts that they select to give to their parents. It's a wonderful afternoon, morning. There's 2-hour shifts that you could sign up for. You don't have to come the whole day, but you can if you'd like. And there's a sign up in Sparks Hall. And I think that covers almost everything. So thank you for your attention.
So go ahead and stand for the Declaration of Principles. We believe in one universal spirit manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe in our faith operates upon a law of mind, which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and in the immortality of the individual soul forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all.
I am so grateful for
all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed.
Very nice. Let's give the band some more love. That's some jazzy love. That was nice. So we're transferring some jazzy love onto you guys. So this is our last Sunday in the Attitude of Gratitude officially, this being the last Sunday in November. We've been exploring all kinds of things in the way of being grateful and preparation and so forth. And this is yet another exercise in that with today's talk title of Transference. Transference. But before we get to that, I would just like to start by asking this question. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in another person's body? In another person's body for just a day, to experience life as another, to see the world as they do, their joys, their fears, their victories, their disappointments. What would it be like? What would it be like to have another's body? And what would we do with it? So, in the original TV series, Star Trek, they attempted to tackle this question. Through the use of alien technology, of course, there's always alien technology, because that's the only way you can do these things. Through alien technology, Captain Kirk and an old girlfriend switched bodies. That's what this image is, in case you can't tell. So, it was Captain James T. Kirk and his former girlfriend, Dr. Lester. And she had some unhealed stuff. And she inhabited Kirk's body. So you don't need to watch that anymore, so you can watch that instead. So now this situation presented some interesting dilemmas for both of them, because they both had many projections and assumptions about the lives each other lived. So it was, even as a kid, it was interesting to me that Dr. Lester, who was a doctor, so very accomplished in her own realm and through her own efforts, right, wanted to be a starship captain. Right? And not just any captain, but James T. Kirk, right? And somehow had to have life through that experience rather than the accomplished life that she had, which was very interesting. Well, at least to me, it was interesting. So it was not the best episode. It was the last episode, as it turned out. But that question has always stayed with me, what it would be like to be in another's body. So today's talk title is Transference. And in transference, it's sort of like that, but not really. So we're not using any alien technology. And people do not physically inhabit the body of the other. And yet, it is a psychological phenomenon. And one that the founder of this teaching, Dr. Ernest Holmes, was very, I would even say obsessed with the human experience. He just found it so interesting. And so he spent some time on this idea. Because, the science of mind and spirit, which is what we are teaching here, really is spiritual psychology. So it is it is the attempt, I suppose, to marry both science and religion together. In fact, the textbook starts, "We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand from the invisible to the visible." So this is so early 20th century through the 50s and today, still trying to reconcile the things that we know about science and the things that we experience as religion, right? And the philosophies, which are basically opinions, right? Philosophy is just opinion that we have around that stuff, and how to make it all work. Because we're finding out, the scientists are even putting it out there, that it's all one thing now. So when we start exploring things like quantum physics and quantum science and the mathematics around it, right, it's approaching the mystical, right, more than the scientific, right, which I find very interesting, because the ancients have postulated a lot of the things that science is just now beginning to learn how to measure, to qualify, and to quantify. So when it comes to this new science, like psychology, we've all grown up around it now, but you know, it's really an infant science, right? So Freud was, and those guys, William James, that was the turn of the last century. So that's just over 100 years. So it's still a new science. So in this thing, transference, then, he speaks to this as, I found this in the dictionary. First of all, it's a noun. How do you like that? So the transference is the redirection of feelings and desires, and especially those unconsciously retained from childhood toward a new object, such as a psychoanalyst conducting therapy. But it could also be your boss, your mom, your brother, your friend, right? So transference is more than just within the the field of psychology. Now, we're not doing these things consciously unless we find ourselves, in the office on the seat. So I have spoken many times over the years about how it is the human, in this human experience, we can hold attitudes, opinions, perspectives, and many of which we have not reasoned ourselves into, but we have nonetheless accepted them as true. Right? They are in our unconscious. Many of them are opinions. Right? I mean, we start with the parents, and then the school system, and then we go to college, and then, we have our own life experience that inform our psyche. Right? But it has, again, psychology has proven, believe it or not, that most of us have opinions put together by age 20 to 22, and usually in the college experience, but in those years, and then we spend the rest of our life gathering evidence to support those conclusions. Right? Which I think is really an interesting idea until we come to challenge them. Now, this can be either very freeing or very depressing, and it's usually kind of a mix of both, I would say. So what we want to, if we really want to be free, and this ultimately is the purpose of this teaching, is to free ourselves from the ways of thinking that up until now may have kept us bound in some way. And using spiritual practice, knowing that there is this infinite power that's greater than you and I are, greater than you and I are, and we can use it. Bad time to work out my grammar. Thank you. Greater than we are. Right? And we can use it we can use it. And when it comes to mental healing, right? So many of us are working on things that we want to shift in our life, and maybe not currently, but we have. We know what that means. We're wanting to shift it, and yet oftentimes it's just kind of glazed over, right? Like taking a rotten apple and making a candy apple out of it. On the outside, it looks delicious, right? And as soon as we bite into it, not so much, right? So how to shift that, right? That is working with the power, working with the Spirit. To do what? To uproot patterns of thinking that up until now we may not have been conscious of, that are blocking us or keeping us held back, right, from the sunlight of the Spirit, as they say. So, this idea that there's these behaviors that are unconscious and that they can have an interesting impact on our life. So again, this idea that there's unconsciously retained stuff from our childhood. That's nothing new, right? What's his name? John Bradshaw was talking about that ages ago. So nothing new going on there. In our deepest levels of thought, we can either be naive and trusting or guarded and wary. And in many ways, the unconscious behaviors, even though they, and we're unconscious of these behaviors, even though they affect our relationships. They affect them in business, they affect them on the job, in romance, and even the relationships within ourselves. And these behaviors oftentimes present themselves as a knee-jerk reaction, right? We can't even stop ourselves, right? And then we have to make apologies for them later. And this is a real drag when you have to apologize for something when you don't really know what it is that you've done. But your gut tells you, oh, I could have done that better, right? And these often erupt seemingly out of nowhere and have a lot of energy behind them. And that's not helpful either. I've been reading up on this. So, and it usually comes out in stressful situations or around family or our more intimate relationships. Even in the job, right? Where we've been on the job for a while and we're, feel like we can do whatever we want. So under these stressful situations, all of a sudden that bossy, abusive tyrant rears its ugly head. Or the passive, submissive milquetoast. Oh, just whatever you say, right? Ick, right? Somehow we have to check that before the behavior comes out. And if you do this a lot, you may find friends and family offering you the services of a great therapist they know of, which is really the super drag. And hopefully it's not your boss or your customer. Now, it may not feel like it at the time, but what is happening here, if you ever find yourself in this situation, is an opportunity. Right? So this is the Chinese symbol. Within the Chinese symbol, the word crisis is composed of two characters, one representing danger and the other representing opportunity. So that I know for myself, right? So we have this opportunity, we're getting a nudge from ourselves or outside influences that's saying, maybe a good idea to go to a therapist, right? And boy, that was something the first time I went, I just really did not want to go. But I knew that if I did go, I could probably explore all the reasons how my wife was wrong and I was right. Not Stephanie. She's a gem. Totally healed. Right, I'm having a past wife regression here. Okay, I hated it. I hated it at the time. Now, I know I'm not the only one who's been to a therapist, right? Please? No. I'm just letting it all hang out here. Run with me. I hated it at the time. But today, I have to tell you, I just view it today as a mid-course correction. Right? It's just a simple mid-course correction. And it's good to have a trusted advisor to bounce things off of and to explore this transference thing that is within our own psyche, all right, in the subjective, because as humans, we often look to project our stuff on others. I got to tell you, I knew it was her fault. And it was really a bummer when I figured out that it wasn't. But that is where the healing is. Because we all know that the best journeys, right, that step that we have to take to get to the mountaintop begins with the first step. We all know this. And that the most difficult journeys, that's where we get the best insights. So it's a good thing if we find ourselves needing a mid-course correction, even though it often doesn't feel like it. So in this chapter, Transference, which is in the Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes explores the ways in which our mentality projects either hostility on others and its potential root causes. He also explores how transference can occur when we put our faith in things outside of ourselves, and also how this is part of the process of healing. So this transference thing, it's a trust deal. So we go into this healing relationship and we become dependent on the person, right? Because it's a safe place. So you don't want to do this with anyone. So therapist, even a minister or a practitioner, right? Somebody safe who's not going to bring their own stuff into the arena, right? So there is a transference thing that goes on there. Because if you think about it, when we're stuck, we're kind of powerless over this outside condition, even if we can't put a name on it yet. But there is one, as they say in recovery, there is one who has all power. That's the juicy bit. But we have to wade through the levels of mind to get to that. So he explores how transference can occur when we put our faith in things outside of ourselves, but also how it's a part of healing. So he says, generally speaking, the patient is apt to have either a sense of hate towards the analyst or warm affection. The theory is that the patient will now feel as he did earlier in life toward his parents. Therefore, the emotions he felt towards them will more quickly come to the surface to be self-seen. So in other words, the client then has a realization and sees it for themselves, even if people have been telling them for years, hey buddy, you need to do something with your temper, right? But until you have the awakening yourself and you see, oh, I remember thinking, you use things to whitewash. I think about myself and my Irish heritage, and I let that whitewash my temper. Oh, well, the mascot for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, right? Well, that's just because I'm Irish. It's just my nature. No, it's because I was an immature punk. Many times, right? That I had unhealed aspects it was really insecurity. And Holmes speaks to that too. Feelings of superiority or inferiority. Right? And what we want to be is okay. We want to just be able to roll with it. Yes? Right? So, and he also recognizes that transference becomes a necessary dynamic in healing, and at the same time can be difficult. So with a therapist, a minister, practitioner, he's even speaking to, even within a scripture or a religion, there can develop a dependency that can become an obstacle to healing, right? So basically what he's saying is that there's a structure of knowing the world that we currently have that may be standing in the way of the healing that we know that we want. So in a way, to take it to the furthest extreme, it's like the alcoholic who wants to drink just a little bit. right, and experience sobriety. Well, it just, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, right? It's like being a little bit pregnant. It's impossible. So, this means then that the patient's possibility, so he understands that there's this connection here, and then he says this means that the patient's possibility of happiness must return to himself and not have it posed on the analyst, for where the treasure is, will the heart be also. So that consequently transference must be broken in order that the client may be made whole psychologically, which in this instance means emotionally. He must find within himself the stability and security that he needs. And this is called breaking the transference, and the analysis is not complete without it. That Holmes goes on to observe, I think rightly, that no matter what the external object may be in which we place our security or possibility of happiness, we shall never become whole until we have separated all negative reactions from that object. In other words, we got to heal our stuff. If we have mommy issues, got to heal it. Daddy issues, heal it. Brother, sister, teacher. You know, that teacher who's told you you'd never amount to anything. Whatever. It's time to heal it. Time to be done with it. Time to disassociate those negative reactions to that stuff. And it's funny, you know, some of that stuff will poke its head up. It's sort of like whack-a-mole, right? So you get it, like you have this whole whack-a-mole thing going on, and you know, and you're on it, man. And then and that one that you just can't get to pops up. But that's okay. Holmes observes that people can be saved, think they can be saved through certain formulas, certain assets of procedure, prayers that can be found, that this is not wholeness, rather it's just the opposite, for it is a complete dependence on a form or a word or a person or even an institution rather than on the self. There's another aspect to this dynamic that Holmes does not address, and that being a friend, sibling, parent, or boss subjected to this transference thing, right? Particularly hostility. When we are in a position of authority and we have an employee who's being snarky and nasty, right? They're unhealed stuff. So what that tells me around this whole thing is to remember one of the 4 agreements, which is to not take things personally, right? So remember, the dude's on the cross and he says, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do, right? I don't know that I could actually do that one, but, you know, I'm willing. I still have some unhealed stuff. So one can see how this could be difficult if you have a screaming maniac in your face, or even being blamed for stuff that you have not done, or in the case of parenting, should have done, being told you should have done and did not do. But let's face it, folks, if we're over 25, it's on us now. We can no longer blame our parents for stuff that's happened in the past. And some people do not get a good start. And I get that. Some people are really seriously abused, right? And yet there is one who has all power, right? And so once the awareness of the situation exists, right? Awareness builds consciousness. That I know now that I can think about this situation and flip it and see it in another way, not compartmentalizing it, not stashing that dark, shadowy stuff back here somewhere, but allowing the light of the Spirit to bring light to it. We're seeing it. Yes, this happened. Yes, this really sucked. But I am no longer willing to allow this to have power over my life. I'm done with it right now. And up until now, I may not have had the tools within me to do it, but I am inviting the infinite power of presence of the divine into my heart, mind, soul, and body right now to transform this experience, to empower me and propel me into ways of living so that I can experience my most effective life, the highest demonstrations of creativity, to step into the love arena with courage, to be seen, and to love the other as they are, not a projection of what I think they should be. This is powerful living, man. And you know what? It's also spiritual living. Spiritual living. Because we are living our lives open and receptive to allow the Spirit, the light of the Spirit, to express itself in, through, and as all our stuff. In, through, and as every aspect of life. And when we do this, then we actually become change agents here on earth, either consciously or unconsciously. It's really sweet, right? Have you ever caught yourself being patient and kind in a situation where in the past you would have actually maybe even been at somebody, throttling them, right? Now, maybe that's not the way, I grew up living and working around men, right? So that kind of behavior has been tolerated, at least on the construction site, right? But when you realize, wow, I don't have to do this anymore, right? It's like you just set the bags down and you just kind of walk away from it, right? That's real freedom. I learned to do that here. There's one power, one presence, one source, one life of God, expressing in, through, and as this manifest universe. That I'm open to that now. I invite you to join me in that receptivity. And when we live from there, we experience life as wholeness, as oneness. We have a common unity with our fellows, that we can be in the world and expressing love and respect and equanimity, seeking first to understand rather than to be understood, to console rather than to be consoled, and to love, and not only love, but love with all our soul, heart, mind, body, the whole thing, right? Without wanting anything back. Just loving. In other words, to be a channel for peace. These are the gifts of the Spirit. So let's call the musicians forward before I get off on another thread. So I would invite you, right? So you made it to church today, right? So Sunday's the first day of the week, yeah? Not Monday. Right? So we begin with the end in mind. So, made a good start. We made it here. We're here to witness the power of the divine expressing as each one of us to each other, and to support us in that knowing. So at some point during the day today, I would invite you to consider how you are a gift of the Spirit, expressing. How we can be the gift of the Spirit to everyone whom we meet, especially those we may be in conflict with. To consider the ways that we can allow the Spirit to inform our life, that person that we're transferring into is a spirit that's already there. And we're just calling that forth today. Knowing that each one of us, all of creation, is an emanation from the very mind of the divine itself. We step onto that field and allow us to experience life as that today. Take that into our work week and report back next week. We'll see how it went.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one, live as one. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one, live as one. Give it up for the band.
Pretty good. Let's give some more love.
Thanks.
All right, so as we prepare our gifts for the offering, 3, 4.
Spirit
So going with him for just a moment longer, recognizing and knowing that the gifts presented here this morning are a demonstration of consciousness that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. And so through the channel of this generous heart of the individuals, we, representing the heart of this spiritual community, accept these gifts with deep love, appreciation, and respect as we know together they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless the lives of each one here this morning, the lives of anyone connected to this center in any way. That we extend this blessing and good tidings to our friends here in our community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, and for our planet as well, that in some crazy cosmic way, it's all an emanation from the very mind of the divine itself. And to the extent that we understand this to be so, we see it demonstrating in all ways, great and small. This lifts our heart. We feel a sense of grace and power that propels us into ways of spiritual living and spiritual loving, and that's a good thing. Together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. So please help me thank our ushers this morning, Ms. Christy Guyman, Ms. Chloe Houghton, and so let's just give a little more love to the musicians. Really nice job today. Yeah. So you may not know this, but the bookstore is now a prayer room. The guy in the back, Wayne, is not snoozing. He's holding the high watch for us. He makes his way into that little room in there. So if you'd like prayer support, you can go in there straight away, but no fighting, no sharp elbows. Also, we have practitioners and ministers here available for you this morning, and you will see them now as we get ready to close. So let's invite Suzanne up, our ministers and practitioners to circle the room. And a happy Thanksgiving after the day.
So I give thanks today
1 o'clock. Seahawks.
that, oh, he's still talking. Sorry. Anyway, okay. So I give thanks today for knowing that everybody heard today what they needed to hear and understand what they needed to understand, and that we were all here by divine appointment, and we showed up to shine our light upon everything and everyone and show that individual expression of this one life. And I am so happy that we'll all arrive home safely and enjoy our Sunday and know that all is well. And I release my word knowing this is done, and in gratitude, together we say, and so it is.
Please stand for the peace song. Okay, 1 second.